Hello, my name is Jamie and welcome back to my channel. This is Pole Talk with Lebowsplitz. I wanted to share 3 tips that I have for taking your very first pole class. My very first tip is going to be not to judge all of pole based on your very first pole class. There is so much variety that exists within pole, all the way from the studios to the teachers to the classes to just the styles. When you take your very first pole class, you might think that all of pole dancing is this particular way, and that's just not true. Your first class is going to be maybe like a 5% representation of what pole is. I say this because my very first pole class I didn't actually like, and the funny thing is I think I would like it now, but back then when I was first doing it, I wasn't very comfortable with myself. I wasn't comfortable being like half naked, and I wasn't comfortable with my sexuality and my sensuality. So that's to say that like if you go and take a class that is very like sexy based and they're teaching you body rolls and hair flips and you're just not ready for that, you might not go back. And that would be like the worst thing ever, because there is just so much that you can do outside of that. If there's a certain style that you gravitate to, like for example, if you saw a pole performance that inspired you to take a class, maybe look for a studio that focuses on that style of pole so that you can kind of get something more similar to what you're expecting. Even the teachers within a studio will vary. Some might be more like fitness focused, and some might be more sexy focused, and some might be really focused on breaking down a specific move, and some might just want to like teach you the super basic like step around and detail. Some teachers may want to teach you like 3 things the whole class and then just let you dance. And some teachers may teach you a bunch of things and break it down very thoroughly in detail. Like your first class is going to be so much different than someone else's first class. So it's hard to say like what it's going to be like, but if it gives you anxiety, then you can always call the studio and just ask for like a general curriculum, like what to expect. You can also ask like what teacher they would recommend if they have different teachers for the intro classes. My very first pole class was very sensual focused. It was in this like dimly lit room. The teacher was all about feeling yourself and getting connected to your body. I came from more of a sports background, so I never learned dancing. I never got in touch with my body. I was very much like robotic with it. I could not body roll. So I was already uncomfortable being like only in a sports bra and shorts, spandex. And so for me, I was not incentivized to come back because I was already terrified in the class. So I would say to like find the style that suits you, and you can do so by researching the studio a little bit. Every studio is going to be different from each other. So this is just to say that if your first experience in a pole class isn't love at first sight, I really encourage you to give it a second chance. Some intro classes will be more of like part of an intro series where you learn a set of moves, and then you graduate onto the next class and learn like the next level of difficulty. But a lot of classes in my experience have just been like whatever the teacher wants to teach. Pole is very freeform in that way. You don't really know what you're getting, but hopefully at the very bare minimum, you feel comfortable in your class. Like the teacher should be very supportive. So whatever your skin type, body type is, you should feel at ease. In your first class, you may learn like the very basic moves like walking around the pole, how to carry yourself, like your posture. You will learn that the pole has 2 settings. It can be on spin or it can be on static. You might learn a few poses. Everything should be kind of ground-based and not a lot of momentum. You might learn like a spin if the instructor feels like your class can handle it, but the hard stuff won't come until later. So don't be too intimidated. Your first class is going to be catered to the level of the students. Tip number 2, do you have to get naked? Essentially, yes. But in the very first class, most of the time you can get away with wearing like a tank top and shorts, like gym shorts. As you get to more difficult tricks, as you start climbing the pole, you will find that you need more skin to be able to do the things that you want to do, and you're like screw this. You just take off everything. And then sometimes you find you might see a lot of dancers wearing basically nothing. And that might just be because that is the aesthetic that they eventually gravitated towards. Like, it's kind of like a running joke that in pole, like, the longer you're in it, the less you wear. And like the sexier style of clothing that you wear. Also, at the same time, it's kind of like if you feel sexy, you're gonna dance sexier. So that's at least my personal belief. So if you feel like good in what you're wearing, then you're gonna dance differently. At the very bare minimum, you should be wearing a sports bra and shorts. Sometimes you can get away with wearing like a tank top. I've even taught people like their first intro class in pants, but you should probably bring shorts just in case. If you don't, you might slide down the pole. It can actually be like a risk of injury. So that is why we dance half naked, is because you need the skin against the pole to stick to the pole. And without that, you can slide down and hurt yourself. It can be a little bit painful at first. Okay, it can be very, very painful at first, but you pretty much get used to it over time. The first year of pole is the most painful. You're kind of complaining all the time, but you're in the same boat as all the other people who are complaining all the time. And you have these like bruises and you're like, hey, nice bruise. And everyone's, has these trophies from their pole tricks that they're learning. And you kind of just go with it. It's more rewarding than the pain feels in the moment in the long term. So just know that the pole bruising and the red marks are kind of hand in hand with learning pole tricks. Even now, 8 years into it, I still get bruises occasionally and definitely red marks from trying new tricks that is rubbing against skin that's not used to the feeling. So that's just a natural part of pole dancing. That said, I find that the low flow style, you don't necessarily need like any skin when you're just moving around the pole, rolling on the floor, not actually climbing. In that case, you can basically wear whatever you want. But usually in the intro series, you will learn poses and things that do require skin, like the fundamentals of pole, like a pole sit where you just sit on the pole, clasp your legs, and you're relying on that inner thigh grip to keep you up. If you are self-conscious and you don't want to show any skin, there are actually pole brands that make sticky clothing specifically for sticking to the pole. If you just do a quick Google search, you can look up like sticky leggings for pole. I know that certain brands specialize in that, and yeah, they're really cute actually, and I've seen a lot of people wear them. Speaking of things you wear, do not wear lotion and do not wear rings to your pole class. Don't wear lotion even like 24 hours before, I would say. You will just slide and create a residue on the pole that is going to stay there for the next person. Just lotion is a no with pole all around. I'm sorry if it's dry out, you're gonna have dry skin. There's actually some products I think that you can moisturize with that are like oil-free, that can still keep you moisturized. I haven't experimented with them, but they're out there. And yeah, that will make your experience much better. You don't want to be slipping and sliding on the pole when you're trying to do something very basic. On that note, there is a grip aid that you can use. I personally like dry hands, but there's different types out there, and usually they do have them accessible at a pole studio so that if your hands get sweaty, you just put a little bit on and it makes it easier to spin, to climb, to do a lot of different things. So there's no shame in using grip aid. It's to help you, it's for your safety. And if you're wearing lotion, it'll probably help that too. You don't want to wear rings because you can scrape the chrome on the pole or whatever the pole is made of. You don't want to scratch it and ruin the pole. So don't do that. It's also kind of like an injury risk to your fingers. So just no jewelry in general would be good. And my final tip number 3 is to record yourself. Some people will not agree with this. I know that there's a certain pole studio that was like, no recording ever. I'm going to say, since this is my channel, this helped me the most of everything, was recording myself, watching it back. I know it's painful to watch at first because you're like, dang, I look bad. But that is how you're going to make the most progress, is by watching your videos, seeing how you look, and getting that visual feedback. Most pole classes will reserve the last like 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your class to let you record yourself on your phone. Make sure that if there's other people that are in the background of your video while you're dancing, that you have their permission for them to be in it. At the higher level classes, people are super used to recording this moment in class where everyone pulls out their phones, and it's this whole art form of like trying to get the right angle. There's just like a mutual understanding that everyone's going to record themselves at the end. At least this is how it is at my studio. And everyone looks forward to it too, because people like to get that video at the end and to see what they did and learn from it and practice it. Overall, I found that recording is a good practice. You might be wondering, why record myself now? I'm like not even good yet. That is literally how you will get good, is by recording yourself. So it's not just recording yourself, but it's the actual watching it, processing it, zooming in and seeing like what your ankles look like, how your posture is, what you can fix, and fixing it. If you don't ever look at it, then you're never going to learn from it. So it's very important to watch those videos back. You may also forget what you had learned during class if you don't film yourself. So don't just rely on the memory of what you were learning in class. Actually have that video and maybe take notes on it too. Do not be discouraged if you don't like what you see. I promise later on it's going to look better. Even like every time after you do what you learned, as repetitions gather, you will just get better and better. Your form is going to improve tremendously. So take those videos, keep them in your archive. You don't have to post anything. That is not ever an obligation, but just have it for yourself. And then maybe down the road in 8 years, you'll go back, make a vlog and be like, look where I was before. And you can be really proud of yourself. So that is my last tip. So here are some closing thoughts I have. Since you are, I assume, a beginner or just getting into pole or considering getting into pole, the pole community is probably my favorite part. It is one of the most accepting, loving, supportive, and encouraging environments that I've been in. It's also extremely like non-gender conforming, super queer, and I see all body types and skin colors. I do hear stories of not so accepting people or environments, and that's unfortunately just something that you're going to experience in any community you go to. It doesn't have to be pole, but pole dancing, from what I've experienced, has been the most accepting. So if you are concerned that you don't fit in with like the ideal pole dancer, you just haven't gone to enough pole studios, because they're definitely out there. There's so much variation of people who do it. And it's just one of the most accepting communities I've had the privilege to be a part of. If your first pole class does not look like what I've just described, don't be alarmed. That is just an intro pole class, and those are just a bunch of people who went on Groupon or ClassPass and were like, I want to take a pole class. So you can't judge it based on that. But as you get deeper and deeper into the community, you will see that there is all kinds of people that do pole, and they do it in different ways, in ways that you've never even thought people could pole. I promise that you will find community in it if you stay in it long enough. You will discover parts about yourself through pole dancing that you never knew were there. It is as empowering as people say it is. Sometimes it takes like some time to get to that point, but I promise it's worth it, so stick around. Eventually, you will figure out what style you gravitate towards within pole, and that is the best part, because you start to find what you enjoy doing most. It's probably not going to be the things that you learned in your intro class, but you have to start with like the foundations so that you can do the fancy and fun stuff later. Probably the biggest misconception about pole is that you have to be strong, and later down the line, yeah, like a lot of things do require strength if you're trying to do like inverts and fancy tricks, but that's never where you start out. So with anything, you learn the fundamentals first, and later on you add on, and you also get motivated to get strong from pole. Like I was like strong-ish before because I was actually doing aerial silks before, but as I started getting into pole, there were like tricks that I really wanted to be able to do, and that I knew I was like either flexible enough for, or I was close with strength. And it actually motivated me to get in the gym and like do pull-ups and do strength training, because it was just a matter of like lifting more weight than I was used to. So do you start out strong? No. Do you get strong? Yes. And you get strong through not only doing the pole dancing itself, but also like there's cross training and conditioning and all the other things that help you get to the ideal of what you want with pole. It does come, you have to be consistent with it, and everyone has to start somewhere, and everyone's at different points in their journey. So you don't have to have a base level of strength, I promise. And a lot of people that go into the intro classes don't have that. So don't be worried if you don't feel strong enough. Pole will meet you where you're at. Everyone in an intro class is in the same boat as you. Everyone's nervous. They don't know what to expect. They're worried that they're not strong enough. These are all what people think when they take an intro class. Stay open-minded, enjoy the process, and make sure you come back again so that you can have multiple experiences to draw on. But most importantly, be patient with yourself. When I first started, I had no dance experience. I was not good at moving my body fluidly. I was very like jerky, and I could not do anything like flowy. And I felt like a guy. I felt like a guy dancing. I was like, "Ugh." If I can get better, anyone can get better at dancing, I would say. So just be patient and make sure, like I said, to record yourself so that you can actively learn. You might not feel sexy at first when you first do pole, but eventually you'll be able to get into the classes and the styles that you want. Even in your freestyles, maybe when you're at home, you'll be able to explore different sides of yourself in pole dancing that are outside of just like learning the very basic intro stuff. I also want to note that pole dancing came from stripping. So if you are not okay with stripping, probably don't take a pole class. A lot of instructors are strippers. You might be taking class with strippers. Stripping basically paved the way for your ability to take a pole class, so just make sure you appreciate that. And also take a class with a stripper if you can. It's very intertwined with the pole community or the pole studio community. A lot of people do both or do one and go to the other. It's good to be aware of that and be respectful. So that's all the tips that I have for today. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I hope that you enjoy your first pole class or that you are enjoying the journey. Again, my name is Jamie, and I'll see you in the next episode.